The Omita framework is an enterprise The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website. The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website.
Hi, welcome. Good afternoon. Back after lunch, we're going to do another session. And this time I'm joined by Peter and Benny, who's going to talk about becoming digital fit using data. So, guys, can you give a really, really short introduction what that actually means?
Yes, absolutely. So, first of all, my name is Peter and I work as a trusted advisor for the Flow. And together with my colleague Benny, which is also trusted advisor and also happens to be the co-founder of the Flow, we will be explaining you and your organization how to become digital fit using data. So we are helping basically organizations to transform their digital workplace and their way of working into a modern and digital mature environment. And well, in a nutshell, we use also Microsoft 365 technology as a tool to achieve these goals.
That
Yeah,
definitely sounds interesting. So I'm going to make you presenter, get your stream ready, and I'm going to leave, or at least mute myself for the next 45 minutes, I guess. There
all
we
right.
go. Enjoy the show.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thanks.
So very briefly, I would like to thank all the sponsors that make the event basically, happening today. And we are also proud to be one of them, obviously. There's also a code of conduct, which we like to point out to. There's also a QR code. So if you would like to know more about it, you can scan it and read a bit more about that. So back to our session. So what we are doing is we try to help organizations become digital fit, and it's a crucial aspect for us to transform, to adopt, and to continuously improve their way of working, taking into account the needs, the individual, and the organizational maturity, because it also has an impact on the pace of the adoption track. A very important piece of the puzzle is the well-being of the individual and the teams within the organization. But let's start at the beginning first. So why are organizations doing what they do today? Why are organizations investing in a modern digital workplace, and what are their motivations?
Yeah, a good question, Peter. Often we see there are technology drivers playing. However, more and more we see that business departments are becoming involved and even becoming the main drivers of these type of tracks. Because business leaders, they want to transform their teams, their organization in a modern working environment where people can work from anywhere, anytime, and be equally as productive. That was already going on pre-COVID, so that was already a trend before that. But we definitely see an increase speed up in the last couple of months. So the need is higher than ever because there's basically no other choice today.
Yes, yeah, indeed. In 2020, I think we all saw the huge increase in the business involvement in these types of tracks because the need was exquisite. There is a tremendous impact in the daily work of people, in the way they are behaving and the impact it has on themselves. So it is a change that was coming very fast. We were a bit overwhelmed, but now it's coming even faster than ever.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So the consequence is that not everybody can follow. Not everybody has the same digital maturity, what we call it. We now have 4 generations in the workforce, which indicates there are different expectations or even different cultural differences. Between those different generations. So many people still follow. Or can still follow with the basics, but let's say they can set up a meeting online, especially now with COVID. That a lot of people learn that now. They can chat with one another. They can work online in documents and share information, things like that. But of course, there's a lot more to modern and digital working than just that. That is basically just the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, I hear you talking about many people, but how can we make sure that everyone is on board and make sure that the people are aware of all of these changes and possibilities? So how do we make sure that the knowledge is there and how to reinforce the usage?
Well, I think the most straightforward answer today to that is change management and user adoption. Why? Because it's a people-centered process to engage your people and to achieve your business outcomes. So during the process, defining the business outcomes is one of the most tricky parts we see today. Of course, we need to know what these outcomes are and how to live up to them. On top of that, they also need to be smart and measurable.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. So the goal is that the business benefits are transformed or positioned in such a manner that they become measurable. And today, the desired business outcomes are typically captured in the form of KPIs, and are just a couple of them on the slides as an inspiration. And most of them will probably, well, they will feel familiar for most of you. So some KPIs are easily measured within the current possibilities of the tools, or sometimes with additional layers on top of the standard tools. So you might even have some of the standard usage analytics reports present in Power BI. And well, basically, besides clear statistics in regards to the product usage and assigned licenses and such, we also tend to see the first adoption-related metrics showing up. And it might be clear for everyone, I think, that user adoption and the measurement of the impact it has on the organization is crucial in the change process. And this is really important. So when speaking of implementing a new way of work, the risk of failure of technology is only 10%, so compared to a 90% risk of user adoption. Also keep in mind that most people know that they are in need of a new way of work, and they feel it's a bit old, robust, so they know there are new things that need to happen, but they often don't know what that basically means. And I like to quote Henry Ford on this matter. So he said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So even if you had give them a race car, for example, people would have still resisted at first. So basically, technology is the means, but it's not the goal itself. So to make sure everyone is on board as much as possible, there are different methods to be used.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Peter. The most used methodology, let's say, today for change management and user adoption is the ADKAR model. This model offers everything to prepare, enable, and engage the people for the upcoming change. For those of you who are not quite familiar what this means, let me give a very short explanation of this model. So the model is basically built in logical different phases. At each phase, there's a set of actions, let's say, that you can take. So the A of awareness is to make people aware of the changes that is coming and explain them clearly why this change is relevant for them. So what is in it for them, basically. The D stands for desire. So there is a desire from the side of the people that needs to be created within the organization for the change. A network of change ambassadors, of course, needs to be built, which will function as your antennas inside the organization to get feedback and manage potential resistance that is coming from the workforce, let's say. Then knowledge, of course, to handle the change, people need to have the right set of knowledge and the right set of skills. If people do not know how to use the new tools, chances are pretty high they will not use them at all. So there's a focus on training there, coaching and communication via different channels. In such a way, it works for the organization you're dealing with, basically. So every organization has its different flavors or its different habits. So definitely adjust it to that. The A stands for ability. So run multiple pilots in a controllable and smaller group of people before launching it to the entire organization. This gives you the ability to monitor, adjust, and iterate until the process really works and fulfills the expectation. And then the R stands for reinforcement. So once people start using the tool, the job is not done. After the change has been delivered, do not let go. We often see that, but it requires basically a continuous effort. Keep actively monitoring and adjusting where needed, for example, by offering small tips and tricks about new functionalities or new ways of working, run additional campaigns, service, and so on. So to summarize, if the change is not clear for people, so why does the change need to happen? Why do we need a set of new tools? Why do we need to change our working behavior? What is in it for me? So as a user, what is in it for the user? And if they do not know how to use the tools, chances are pretty big they will completely use the tools wrong or not use them at all. So one of the key success factors in such a track is having the correct people on the floor. I talked about the change ambassadors. Those are basically the people who are close to the people on the floor. And if they have an influential nature, let's say, they will have a much bigger impact on the success of the adoption.
Yes, absolutely. So if we have a look at how ambassadorship today is happening, so it's often ambassadorship itself is often assigned through a number of managers trying to create an ambassador network to cover the entire organization. So in theory, this sounds like a very smart decision. And if we find the ambassadors that are also actually willing to take up the task, well, that's a plus, right? So enthusiastic ambassadors are indeed a gem, and it's not. You don't find them very often, but if you do, please embrace it. But we ask ourselves: is it sufficient? So, are we absolutely sure that enthusiastic people have a strong organizational connection and an impact on their surroundings? So. But okay, for now, let's just assume that we have a great network of ambassadors. How do we get their insights in terms of user adoption? How to avoid the change team and business leaders are running blind? So, of course, we could question them once in a while, for sure. And we all know how much people love to fill in surveys. And again, let's assume they do, and they fill in these surveys on periodic basis. Even then, we have to assume that they have been filled in correctly, that they talk, so the ambassadors, they talk or collaborate enough with their colleagues, their peers, to provide us with great insights. So I hope you all get the picture here. So I use the word assume a lot. So this approach is based on assumptions on top of other assumptions. So there are just way too many of them in this approach to create a clear state of adoption image. And I hear some of you thinking, but we can measure how much the tools are being used. And that is absolutely correct. And it's really important too, because simply put, it's data.
Yes, indeed. So one might say that an accurate measurement is worth more than 1,000 expert opinions. So measurement today can be done in different ways. So the one you just mentioned, it's basically called active data processing. So it's conducted through surveys, like you just explained, Peter. And however, the quality really depends on the results of the survey, the amount of people who are answering the survey. That is really key in there, like you also mentioned. Now, luckily, organizations also have a bunch of data already, which is people related. Very often, that data resides in the HR department. That data can give us strong insight and structure and relationship between the people within the organization and between the people and the relationship with the organization. Also demographical or even cultural information. So that's definitely an additional one. There is also a more passive form of data gathering and analysis. I know, Peter, you have a BI background. I think you definitely have something interesting to say about that.
Yes, absolutely. So like you said, today we have a number of passive data insights based on measurements of our Microsoft 365 environment. The well-known usage reports in the Microsoft 365 admin portal, for example. As briefly mentioned before, more in-depth metrics can currently be found in Power BI. So there we have a regularly updated data set at our disposal, covered within the Microsoft 365 Usage Analytics app. They should really shorten that name. We see how many teams have been created recently, how many app-based licenses have been assigned, even metrics on, for example, month-on-month returning users. But even if we take a step back, considering all of these metrics, even with smart custom reports and additional insights, do they provide us real insights on behavioral changes?
I would say yes and no. I'd like to add, if I can, a few questions to this. So does this type of data gathering offer us a better view on how the tools are actually being used? Can we clearly see how these tools provide a better, more modern workplace? Or if our employees even benefit from this new way of working? Do they have more meetings, but shorter meetings? Or do they have less meetings, but maybe longer meetings? Do they have a lot of one-to-one calls or more meetings with more than, let's say, 8 people? Today, that's really hard to know. Especially in the current remote context with COVID, it becomes even more tricky to know how people are behaving and how well they are doing, basically. For instance, are they running a lot of overtime? Do they have sufficient time to focus on their core activities and so on? So this requires, let's say, a different type of measuring. To gain these insights, there are other metrics which have a potential business value, like productivity and employee well-being, but they are very tricky to measure in a classical way. Therefore, today impressions through surveys and often gut feeling drive the insights. So by introducing new work styles and collaboration tools, you don't have a guarantee that people are using these tools in an effective way. I mean, in a way that provides them focus, more focus and not less focus, in a way that they truly run meetings efficiently, not more meetings, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, absolutely. I follow you on that. So this is just what we did. So we looked at the facts. We talked to many of our clients, and we questioned our own approach. So sometimes you get to do that. Today, we really dare to ask ourselves, do we currently achieve our true goal? And the answer is partially, but there is so much room for improvement. We needed a better whole, a more reliable user adoption approach, which is measurable, that provides insights in digital maturity differences, a way to continuously improve this so-called new way of work. And yes, we found it. So we call it digital fit. Benny, can you please tell us more about it?
Yes, for sure. So the philosophy is about getting people and organizations digitally fit, like the word explains, and keep it that way. Lots of organizations today are struggling with the constant and fast releases of new technological possibilities. This, of course, has an impact on their people. And this is not always clear what benefits these new possibilities in technological advances can offer them. So digital fit is all about the continuous improvement of daily work with the support of technology, basically. The digital maturity, which you see at the bottom here, is let's say the base for this approach, or the base metric for this approach. So the digital maturity of both the organization and the employees is at the core. Let me give you some typical examples. So we encounter people in trainings who are literally not able to find an application on their desktop if it's at another location, if the icon is not there where they're used to having it. You also have a lot of people, of course, who are used to working their entire career in email and file shares, and let's say in a more classical way. If you give those people one or two online trainings about, for instance, co-authoring and sharing information in Teams, chances are very high that they will be lost in less than 2 minutes, regardless of the quality of the training. Why is that? Because the gap is simply too big between what they are doing today, how they are used to working for years and years, and what is expected of them in a modern way of working. So those type of people need a far more intense training track than, let's say, a more digital savvy person in that same organization. That is, of course, also true the other way around. A digital savvy person will be bored out of his or her mind in a slow and too intense training. Give that person some short introduction videos, some online material, and that person will be working with it in no time in a proper way. Another example, and it's more on the organization side, is where many processes are email driven, typically in the lower digital mature environments. For instance, onboarding of a new employee, where an HR person needs to send information to multiple departments, and everybody needs to perform a set of tasks that are depending on one another. This often results in a lack of overview, a less fluent user experience for the new employee, which is, of course, crucial. A first impression is always an important one. Everybody knows that, and there's many other examples like that. So the digital maturity of people goes hand in hand with the maturity of the organization. A digital mature organization requires, of course, digital mature people in the organization. So it is good to get the broad maturity of the organization up to speed and to a level where they're able to properly perform the basic activities in the digital workplace. I already named some examples, like properly setting up and managing online meetings, being able to perform the basic collaborative tasks with colleagues, like working online in documents, structuring them, sharing them, etc. Using teams according to a proper defined governance model in the organization, etc. That is, of course, just a starting point. So the next and better step requires an increased maturity of people on the one hand, and at the same time, it increases the maturity of the organization. So during this step, we combine multiple applications to improve the work stream. This can be applications within the Microsoft 365 landscape, but this can also be a combination with Microsoft 365 apps and other tools. That can be Salesforce or whatever. Doesn't really matter. In both cases, Microsoft Teams is at the center of this. So Microsoft Teams is classically being positioned as the hub of teamwork. This is now changing more in the hub of work, we call it. Then the final and best step is to automate and optimize business use cases and processes with low or no code solutions. And eventually, learning business users, of course, not all of them, but a particular set of people, to create their own business applications and automate their own processes. So moving up the ladder requires, of course, time, proper coaching at the pace of the organization, the teams inside the organizations, and the individuals inside the teams. To make organizations digitally fit, we also created a digitally fit methodology. So our digital fit methodology is built on top of the ADKAR model, which I explained earlier, and consists of the following stages. So discovery, these tracks usually start with, let's say, the discovery of the organization. We need to get to know the organization. Every organization is different, and it has its own culture and habits. While doing that, we determine clear goals and benefits the change will bring. This why are they doing this? What will be the clear benefits for the people and the organization? It is, of course, crucial to focus on leadership engagement. So getting them on board early is very crucial in such a track. And we do other sorts of activities during that step, like determining the change approach, depending, for example, on what worked in the past, what didn't work, and so on. Next, an alignment is needed on the needs of the organization and the individuals. In order to do that, we need to gain deep insights in the workforce. So using data analysis where needed, create a multi-skilled change team, determine a change ambassador network, also preferably with data underneath it. We come to that later. We built a change communication and training plan and so forth. So let's say the stuff that you do in the ADKAR approach during the engagement, which is then the next step. There is where the true connection starts with the people or with the workforce of the organization, by building their knowledge, testing and adjusting the process during pilots, delivering the solutions to the masses, and so on. Of course, during that step, data insights are extra useful to adjust and coach where needed. With the peer support, of course, that the ambassador network is offering to the people. In the last step, we gain insights in the behavior of people and teams to further reinforce and improve the way that they are working. The productivity and the well-being is at the heart of that. So the productivity of the employees and their well-being related to that is at the heart of this. This is a continuous story, so this is not a one-time thing. This is a continuous improvement of new or existing business use cases and processes. So to summarize this, doing all this, we are using the data that Microsoft 365 is generating. So it generates a bunch of useful information and data to gain insights in the behavioral patterns of people and their work style. That allows us to professionalize our user adoption approach and to improve, in the end, the productivity and well-being of employees. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so now it becomes really cool. So now we get to the cool part of the presentation. So we're almost there. So with our data-driven approach, we are now able to analyze Microsoft 365 generated data, enriched if needed, like Benny said, with additional data sources from, for example, HR or active survey data, to gain an objective insight into determining the best possible influencers as a change agent. We can visualize the real communities. I get to that on the next slide, where we also get to see the true information streams and collaboration patterns. We now know who the key people are, regardless of org charts or managers that decide which are the key people. We can detect also who is being left out or who we are about to lose. We can analyze real relations between business units, departments, teams, and externals even. And for example, we can measure the behavioral change from mail to Teams usage. So to determine or reinforce the ambassador network, this data can be used to detect just a limited set of people to reach a maximum amount of people with. So in this picture on the right, you get to see that each dot is considered a node. It's just a terminology. It's a person. A node is a person. So based on advanced scientific queries, we were able to identify the green nodes. And these are the people which are considered actual influencers within the organization. The underlying data is built on top of metadata, which was extracted from historic email traffic, calendars, and even Microsoft Teams conversations. And like we've mentioned before, the ambassador network is key in any change track. So the detection of the correct people who have a substantial influence on their peers, this is crucial for the success of the entire track. Now, when we ask organizations for an overview of their active communities, they often point to, for example, a community tool that they currently have in place. Could be Yammer, could be all sorts, maybe non-Microsoft technology, that's possible. Also, sometimes they point to groups of people with the same function title or a role, and they call it the so-called expert network. This seems to be accurate in theory. So based on data, we are now able to see the real communities by gaining insights in who is connected with who and how communities are actually behaving, which people are driving them and how they are connected to each other, both internally and externally. And on top of that, based on comparison of periodic data sets, such as these, we can detect transitions in behavior when introducing new changes.
Yes, indeed we can. Productivity, that's then let's say the second track in the data driven approach is at the core of a well-oiled organization, let's say. And employee well-being is directly related to this because inefficiency leads to working overtime, increasing workloads, related stress situations, and so on. So productivity and well-being, this is basically about measuring your team productivity, make meetings productive and cut the waste, quantify and estimate costs related to those inefficiencies, let's say, measure their home office performance, very relevant in these days, check if people have sufficient time to perform their actual work, and so on. So let's dive in to this topic. It usually starts with getting a high-level overviews of overall insights in the meeting culture and behavior of an organization. With dashboards like you see here on the screen, we contain, let's say, a summarized overview of relevant data and also trends in the form of the graphs, like you see an example here. Note that these dashboards allow you to filter on time, department, team, or whatever form of people structure. So it can also be location-based or anything else. That's completely, let's say, configurable. The data is gathered, like we already explained, directly from Microsoft 365, and it can be enriched with additional data. So for instance, to create your department and teams, we all know that not every organization has the most clean Active Directory structure. No problem, that this data can also be enriched with, for example, lists or exports from HR related data. So that's not an issue there. To zoom in a little bit on one of the metrics, meetings, for instance, with more than 8 people tend to be more positioned as briefings. It's actually hard to have a close engagement with all the members at the same time when you have 8 people or more. If a team is having these type of meetings too frequent and the duration of those meetings is too long, that could be a potential alarm bell. Based on that, you can take action and coach them, and etc. Another one is multitasking. So where the portion of emails that are being sent during meetings. So if a person has a meeting and at the same time the person is sending emails, that also tells us something. So that gives us an indication about the quality of the meetings. How well are they prepared? The people in there who are not focused, it could indicate that they may be not required in that meeting, or that the topics are not of their interest, that the meeting is maybe too long, and it should be better cut up in subtopics and so on. So this can be used to gain insights in the behavior and leverage a cultural change, basically. Now, there are other forms of distractions. So mailing during a meeting is a form of distraction, let's say. So it's not only sending emails and meetings, like I just explained, but the meetings themselves can also be distracting. If you have a lot of work to do and people constantly invite you in meetings, then you do not get a lot of stuff done, of course. So then we call a meeting as well a distraction. Also, emails themselves can be a distraction, or chat generated by Teams can be distracting as well. One of the core aspects of employee well-being, that's then more the second topic, is how much time do they have left to actually perform their work? In other words, how much focus time do people actually have? We hear a lot of people saying during COVID, everybody just fills up my agenda. I don't have any time left to, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I basically need to start my workday to get everything done. And yeah, there's also, of course, a cost element to that. If people spend their whole day in meetings, their work doesn't get done. So there's also an estimation of costs related to this that can be managed via our tooling. Notice that this is a different visualization. So this is in the form of a socio map or a heat map. This offers a very direct indication of which teams are performing well, and which teams require additional action or additional coaching. Like we already mentioned, it's hard, specifically in these days with the social distancing and with the remote working, to gain a proper insight in the working rhythm of people and the potential consequences as well. So this again allows us to take action from the well-being of people. So what this shows us is an overview of people working outside their what can be defined as the working hours, let's say. So this gives business leaders an overview, and this gives also an overview across the organization of what is going on that level. So so these type of data insights can be used during the digital fit track to gain live insights. So it's done with passive data connection, so we can get a live insight in the behavior of teams. This allows us to work very targeted and very accurate, and allows us to guide and coach the right teams at the right time with the proper information, let's say. Basically, any metric can be created, which is based on email data, calendar, Teams, or basically any other collaboration tool, not to name the other ones. Data in combination can also be combined or enriched, like I explained before, with, for instance, HR data. So that is definitely, let's say, a summary of what can be done with this. Now, I hear you all thinking that is all very interesting, but what about data privacy? We live inside Europe, so GDPR is something to take into account. You're absolutely right to think that. So you could see this as, let's say, a potential pitfall for doing this type of activity, but everything is in place. Everything is there to perform this in a perfectly GDPR compliant manner. First of all, there is no use of actual content. So we never analyze, for instance, mail subjects, content of documents, contents of chats, etc. Or any content whatsoever that the user created, let's say. So we use metadata, in other words. All tools that we use in terms of this are GDPR compliant. They are inside the European Union. They have all the policies and compliancy rules or legislation that is required to use them, also in enterprise context. And also the data can be anonymized, and we do that as much as we can where possible. It of course depends on the requirements of the organization, what they want to analyze. So basically it comes down to determine the goal of what you want to accomplish with these type of analysis. That needs to be crystal clear. It needs to be determined and described upfront. And it needs to be discussed and also approved with, let's say, the required parties, DPO, legal, HR, etc.
Okay. Whoa, that was quite a lot of information, I can imagine, for many of you, or maybe most of you. So I think we can conclude or try to conclude on how to become digital fit using data. So first of all, very crucial, adoption. Adoption is key. Make sure to properly discover the organization first, its culture and its habits, determine clear goals, and align the approach and engage users with a strong team and the best possible influencers.
Mm-hmm. Then also combine your different data sources. Like we explained, you have still your survey data, you have your HR data, maybe different types of data, and then you have your behavioral data, which we call it, and move beyond the standard KPIs that were more static, let's say, and build a much greater value.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then maybe the third most important thing to remember or to take home with you. Okay, that was maybe a strange statement in COVID period. So to focus on continuously reinforcing business use cases, productivity, and also the well-being of employees. Or in a nutshell, we like to ask to please do take a data-driven approach to empower your employees. Thank you very much. Benny, you got some final words for the attendees? I think I'm going to wave at Albert because
Is it better?
You're muted. Yes, yes.
I was still mute. Sorry about that. So
That's
thanks
okay.
for the session. Really awesome. Learned a lot of cool new things. So that's good from my side. There was one question from Ingrid. Are those metrics conform data protection? I think you already answered that question in the last part of the presentation, but just head over to the Discord channel, see if Ingrid has any other remarks or needs some more clarification, so that at least helped out. And other than that, we're going to have a 15-minute break, and then we'll move on to the next session talking about search. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the sessions.
The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR, to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website.
Apostelhoeve is wat mij betreft een van de top 3. Ja, dan moeten we switchen. Onze Warroom is live.
The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website. The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website.
There we go. Hi, Steve. Hi, Marijn. Let's check if we have sound.
Hi.
Yeah. All good. All good. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Awesome. So, what are you going to talk about?
Whiskey probably.
Ooh,
No,
that
oh no,
sounds
no,
good.
not whiskey this time. No, that's
Wrong
the other. Search.
Ah,
We've
so
got a
that
series
matches
called
my
Working-
calendar. So that's good. That's good. So you're going to talk about the Microsoft 365 certs. What does that
Correct.
mean?
This is a series of working with the business. So it's the business and IT working together for good search.
Exactly. So if you're here to learn about how to add a vertical in Microsoft 365 search,
Wrong.
that is
presentation.
not the thing that we're gonna talk about. The emphasis is really on working with the business and how you can get the business moving towards going to a good search result.
Oh, sounds really interesting. Well, I'm going to mute myself, share your screen, and let you guys take it away.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome to a Saturday afternoon here on a SharePoint Saturday, kinda. Do you know, we set this up and we weren't supposed to be here. We thought it would be really, really cool if we were going to be presenting this from Japan.
Oh yes, yeah. So we should have been in Tokyo right now, but something kind of
Got in
came
the way.
between us.
Got in the way.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
All right. Welcome to our sessions on working with the business. This particular session is about Microsoft 365 Search. And if you caught before, as Maureen was just explaining, this is not an overly technical session. It really is about understanding how you can get best from search by working with the business.
exactly. And this working with the business topic is really a series that we do. So we also have another one that is on how to prepare for Cortex, for example. You can probably find that on YouTube somewhere. This one is really around how to get the best results when you're working with the business on Microsoft 365 Search.
We have another one in production on working with the business on Fast and Furious for MS Teams governance.
Exactly.
Well, I've got to talk about that one yet, but
Yes.
we will do that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's kind of move on. I'll just move the mouse across here. And
Go.
click, and
Awesome.
It works.
So many sponsors. This is a free event and it's all online. So what are they gonna do with all this money? I've got no idea. Anyway, no, it's awesome. I know even it's an online event, there are still a lot of costs involved. So it is awesome to see that all these companies, and definitely Belgium and Netherlands companies, but also international companies, stay focused, stay sponsoring events like this. So that is just out of this world awesome.
So do we have to say thank you to all of them?
No, that's good. Just
Sure.
thanks all. Yeah.
Okay, just do one. Neat. All right.
Searching whiskey we've got on Discord.
Yes. Yes, if you have a list, we do have a list of all the whiskies that we spoke about in our podcast.
Yes, we do.
And in our tenants, we can search for those whiskies and identify which date we actually spoke about which particular whiskey and which one we like.
Exactly.
Because part of the problem with our podcast, there we go, is that, of course, we have so much whiskey we forget what we're drinking.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
All right, let's just go back to the code of contact. Yes, this is an open platform, a community platform. So there are some rules. We don't want people to get annoyed at each other. I can't call you a rude name. I'll try not anyway. We'll see what happens.
That will be a first. But anyway, no, just behave. Everyone just behave.
Have fun.
Exactly.
Yourself, respect everybody. You guys probably know, some people already do. We're starting to get some comments. We do a podcast. We've been doing it for nearly 3 years now. It will be 3 years next year.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
In a bit.
Yeah.
We're approaching our 50th podcast, which we think is cool. It's good fun. It's chilled out. It's relaxed. We had a busy few days. We spoke in Cincinnati yesterday at the SharePoint Saturday on a Friday. Yeah, not sure how that works out. And we then recorded a new podcast. So we've got an episode rock and rolling on adoption and change and from a different perspective. But it's just a chilled out podcast. And
and also, well, how we set up this podcast is we always talk about technology for around 45 minutes. And then we always end with a whiskey tasting. That's where that distilled thing comes from. And I always make that joke that people are always saying that we should do the whiskey tasting before we talk about technology. But trust us, we tried that. That doesn't really work very well. Well, it works for us, but...
And trust me, Maureen always makes that joke. So
yes, exactly.
But I promise you for 2021, he'll have a new one. All right. So in our remaining 40 minutes, we're going to try and throw across a set of new concepts and ideas that we've been working on that based upon our experience around search. So we're going to look at business to IT, the success of search, and how that relationship between the business, between IT, is so key to get the most out of this. All of these business sessions are the same. Okay.
That's better.
Okay, it's better now,
Yeah.
is it? Good. We're going to understand the importance of that business strategy. So we're going to say this is about a strategy. Understand how to get the process started. We're going to think in an agile way. Most of you that know me know that I'm very much into the agile process, as much as all of us are now, as our businesses move towards trying to do things in a more efficient way. We're going to look at setting up search and how to maintain that high quality service. And then we'll do a shallow dive as we go through this into some of the search and some of the admin pages.
Exactly.
Cool. So this is how we've tended to work for the last goodness knows how many years. On the left-hand side, IT comes up with all of these great solutions, and then they go to the business and say, hey, we're going to do this for you, as if we were kind of magnanimous and we're, supporting the business. And the reality is we don't really ask the questions as to whether the business need it or not. We just kind of give it to them. We go to a conference, we see this great new thing, and
shiny. We need this.
We
Implement it on Monday. Yes.
and then we try and do it, and it never works first time round, and it never really works because we don't know what we're trying to do with it and how well it would work.
It's just shiny and cool. So
and it's
who
IT.
cares?
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what we're trying not to do now. What we're trying to do is move to the right-hand side. And the agile process, of course, is about understanding from the business what it is that they need so that IT can focus on what they need to do. They can distill their objectives and their goal to deliver just the value that the businesses need. And that word value is key to all of this. We can turn search on. We're going to talk about in a second what you do out of the box. Great. Wouldn't it be great, though, if we can actually precisely focus their search results and to be able to give them the value they need without them having to do 2 or 3 refinement sessions on a search page? But to do that, we need to know what the business need. And that's why we're moving from left here to right, where we have a bigger input from the business. So what does this actually mean? So anytime in the business, something's either pulled or pushed, okay, as we're process driven. So I'm either having something coming in, I'm pulling information in, or I'm kind of pushing it on to the next stage in the process. And we support the business. That's what IT do, believe it or not. We get paid by the business to deliver the technologies and the processes and the tools and the applications and everything else that they need. So there's a couple of examples here of what we call user stories in an agile world, which is allowing us to precisely decide what will and will not add value. So as the owner of the staff review process in HR, I need managers to find the new updates for the annual review process before the May the 1st. So they want to push that information out so that the people that need it can find it. And there's lots of really cool tools and ways of doing that. Of course, we can have certain search terms and everything else that will make sure that they get to that information. As a compliance officer, I want to make sure everybody gets GDPR. And in the past, what does IT deliver? We deliver an intranet. And we say, hey, this is one-to-many information on the intranet. That's where you'll find the data. And of course, not all intranets are actually as focused as they need to be in terms of being able to find that data. And then on the other side, as the end user, as a receiver of that information, I kind of want to pull in this information around, that meeting video that we created. Or, hey, I want to look for how I complete my staff reviews if I miss the idea that somebody's pushing it into my inbox and I don't read that email. So agility is about being able to focus a specific kind of value and for us then to be able to deliver that value and work towards it. So this is where this concept of business to information technology comes in, B to IT. The idea is that the business define the value and what will deliver value into their business at the time, into their processes. The solution by IT is going to focus specifically on delivering that value. And it basically allows us to reduce things like scope creep and all that kind of stuff because we know what we need to do. And then we deliver it in what we call an iterative process. This is not an agile session. There are other sessions I do about building teams in an agile way. But effectively, it means we do things in little pieces and then we review with the business. So it's not just about saying to the business, give me a precise requirement about what I need. Tell you what, look, this is what I'm thinking of building. Let me show you what I've got so far. Tell me whether it's right. Do I need to change it? Is the right terms being used? Has anything changed since you came up with this idea? And then we review it, and then we basically continually improve through feedback. So this business to information technology, if there's one message I want you to take you away, is that IT cannot survive and deliver things efficiently and deliver value on their own. You have to do it with the business.
All right, cool. So agility is so important, or working in an agile way with the business is so important, because what do you get out of the box? So if you just get, well, if you don't do anything, don't let anything, well, IT, blah, 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 don't work with the business at all and just have IT do their thing, then you just get the default thing that Microsoft's setting up. So that means you get context search out of the box, and you just get that boring search with the standard filters and your default verticals with all results, your files, your sites, your people. So just that.
Now, that might not be a bad thing, of course. There's that MVP, that minimum value proposition. That's what the business gets.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It gets them search immediately, doesn't it? And then we can work out.
Yes, and that is, for example, one of the most important reasons that you would go from a file share into something like SharePoint, because at least it's getting picked up by the search.
Yep. Okay.
Even if you don't clean it up and whatever, at least it's getting picked up by the search, and at least you can do some extra stuff with that. So, for example, if you just go into SharePoint, and I really love the fact that Microsoft Search now has that search bar on top of every application. So if you go into your Outlook, into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive, SharePoint, doesn't matter, you always have that search bar in the middle, on the top. It's always at the same place, and that is super important for people who are not very used to working with computers, who don't know Control F, for example, to search things. So that is so important to have that there.
Front and center.
Exactly. Also, super important is that without even searching for something, so I just click on that search bar without even searching for something, I already get some results. So the graph is already pushing some results. These might be the things that you are looking for. These might be the things that you want to know, that you want to search for. So I'm already delivering this to you.
So this is that HR guy who's saying, I want to be able to send out all of the latest review information so all the managers get to see it. So that would be top center.
Yes. In a perfect world, that would be showing up right there.
Well,
exactly.
If it's not there, that HR guy might have something to say to us.
Yes. You get the same thing. So when I actually do that search, I get my search result. I've got my verticals, so all files, sites, people, news. You can set up your own verticals. Super important, you cannot set up verticals that are coming from SharePoint content. So you can't say I've got a content type with manuals, for example, and I want to have a specific vertical with just the manuals from SharePoint.
We're going to get onto those verticals later.
Yes,
so
of
we'll
course.
show you where
Yeah. So, and you've got that out of the box filter, which also is not that super good if you compare it with the things that you can do if you also add some PMP search web parts, for example. So this is the default search that you get. So this is what IT can deliver without talking to the business, without setting up extra stuff. Of course, you also have that on OneDrive. And of course, you also have that if you do that offline sync with your OneDrive or with your SharePoint. Then the trouble with that is that this only works with the titles, with the file names of your documents. So that's also important to know, because I know a lot of companies where they move from a file share into SharePoint, and they actually mainly are working with this because this will give them that same look and feel, that same experience as working with a file share. And when they search, they only get to search the file name, not the actual contents. If you go into SharePoint, if you go into that OneDrive search on the web, you will get much more out of that.
Yeah, I got a bit with this because I've told everybody how wonderful search is, and it searches the text and everything else, and then they showed me that this doesn't work. Yeah, okay, I agree. There's limitation. It's important to be accurate.
Exactly.
I'm assuming you're just tracking on the questions there in case anything comes
Yeah.
Move forward.
Sure.
So how do we move forward? Well, one of the things that we really need to understand is that search is not something that you can contain in a box. It's a 6-week project. We turn it on, we work out what they need, and we're done. It's not a feature. Search is a strategy. It's actually something that the business is going to continually need to do as their search requirements change, as their information requirements change, and as the content they need to deliver to particular audiences also changes, also updates as their priorities and their strategy updates. So within Office 365 or Microsoft 365, that search strategy needs to be something that's constantly in play and constantly being reviewed. From an agile perspective, from a sort of an epics, a quarterly planning, then it's a case of every quarter understanding what the changes are within the business, understanding what is key information, and making sure that people can get to it quickly and easily. In the past, of course, what do we know? We only know what IT needs. We only know what IT can present. We only know how you can get something fixed. We don't know specific business needs unless we include them and incorporate them within our planning. We listen to them. We give them an opportunity to have their say and to put their words forward.
Yes, this is such a funny story. He can talk for hours and hours and hours around that organizational structure and how that came to be from the old age and the Middle Ages and Romans. And so yeah, I'm just gonna let him rabbit a bit about this part.
You just wanted to hijack this, didn't you?
Shall I just move on? No. We had this in another conversation where he was just talking about this slide for 30 minutes. So anyway,
what happened was when we started putting this presentation together a few months ago, I was saying, hey, yeah, we need to put some organizational structure stuff in. And it was one of those Saturday mornings with not a lot to do. And all of a sudden I went down the rabbit hole on organizational structure and was, wow, this is cool. But it's been around a long time and it's changing. If we just take these last 2 or 3 bullets here. So in the 1930s, they started to realize that as an organization, it's about producing something. It was about making that thing in the refinery and about putting the organization structure together to produce that. But in the 60s, as we started to kind of think a little bit more and understand technology and how that can help us, then it was starting to focus on skills and knowledge. And we've seen that change in the 70s and 80s when people, you can move from one career to another career quite easily because they're actually after the people skills. And now, of course, organizational structure is about delivering strategy and management behavior. And after COVID, I'm actually guessing this is going to change significantly again as we obviously start working from home on a more regular basis. Because one thing that this new way of working has done has made organizers realize they can save money. Why do we actually need offices, heating, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So it will change. But from a search perspective, understanding the organizational structure within your business and how that works is really, really key, because you need to understand where those decisions are and where those information is that's needed. So, for example, at the top organization, your own chief information officer, your own, hey, yes, my boss.
The big kahuna.
The big kahuna, yes. He presumably should be, and if he isn't, you could go and ask, is sending you the feedback from the top of the organization. How are they getting to their data? Do they get to easily, or are there problems? Is there a general amount of feedback? So you're getting some information from the CIO. We also, of course, get information from this delivery matrix at the bottom here. Now, I know that we've all heard about Cortex and Syntex and all that kind of stuff. And these guys are obviously on the ground floor. They know the content. They know the processes. They know how things work. So there's a lot of information there around that delivery matrix. In terms of search, though, the area that we really need to look at is just around here at the lower management level. And these are the guys that can define our search needs and requirements that we need to deliver as IT into the business. I've just chosen 3 here: technical managers, the process management teams, the services like HR and finance and that kind of stuff. Okay. They all know what the business needs to be able to fit in with their processes and everything else. And one of the first things that you need to do is to identify who these search definition experts are. It could well be somebody from the delivery matrix, especially if you're a production organization. But if you're a services organization, then it's really that kind of lower management level where they're touching the workforce that understands what I need to have searched, when I need to have searched, how people can find it, and how I can communicate how people can find that content through best bet searches. So the search definition experts are really, really important when it comes to that business to IT and the relationships that we have. They're not at the bottom end, like a lot of our process-driven stuff. They're slightly over and above there. Once we understand what it is that they're looking for, we then have to work out how we package those results and how we get to them. And there's a number of things here we're going to drill down into in the sort of remaining 20 minutes here. And this is a list of them. So direct links. Are we just going to put a link on our homepage or on our search page or a best bet search that just provides employee value immediately? So I know that if I do this, I will get that. And it's a guaranteed result. It's a different kind of search. If I'm looking at search logs and pages or generating traffic, or how do I find who to support something, then when I search something, I might end up with multiple results, and some will be more important than others. So we need to be able to define those results. We also need to think about timelines. So there are going to be business cycles that will be running all the time. Again, I know I keep referring to Agile, but there's a quarterly process in Agile. There's a quarterly sales process in sales. There's a quarterly reporting process from your C-levels. And you need to be able to make sure that your search results are aligned to those business cycles. If I search for annual report on my intranet, I don't want to get an annual report that's 5 years old. I want to be able to make sure that I get the latest one. If I'm looking at shift patterns for October, so that I can work out where my shift is, because I'm not using bookings yet, or teams and shifts. But if I'm looking for that, then I want to see the shift pattern that is current now. So again, it just goes on, identifies that search is not a one-off project that I can say, yes, shift patterns now works. Shift patterns will need tweaking so that I get the newest one and the latest one, so that I'm not wasting people's time. HR, finance, legal, lots of frequently asked questions. So when I ask a question, I want to be able to get that question answered. Plus, internal communications will want to tell you about where the company is externally, what they're sponsoring, maybe what events they're doing, those kinds of things. And then, of course, we've got some apps that we will look at a few of those a little bit later on, but people want to know how to do something. And finally, one of the big things, local transportation, how I can get to work. Does my carbon footprint for driving in the morning affect the business? Am I part of, do I get a local access to a gym? Those kinds of things, which are all those new starter things that people need to get to. So defining the results based upon what the business is saying we need to be able to put on there, making sure that they are appropriate filtered, is equally part of the success criteria for a successful search strategy.
And for example, onboarding is also super important for this, because when you've got new people coming into your organization, they don't know the structure of your content management set yet. So if you define super good search results based on the questions that they might ask, that will deliver them an awesome first workday experience.
And of course, you get most of those results from the statistics.
Exactly. So there are a number of ways how you can actually monitor your search terms and your search results. So most of these are in those classic SharePoint way of working. So you can definitely see, for example, what people have been searching on, but also what items people have been searching on, but haven't really been finding any results, of searches where they don't get any results, for example. So those are really important things that you can also monitor, that you need to monitor. So you need to find some hit rates on policy documents, on HR documents, finance documents. So very important to see if people are looking for them and if they're actually finding these things. So that brings us to Microsoft Search. So within your admin center, Microsoft Search has its own admin center. Very important to know that the top queries and the impressions that you see here, they're all coming from that integration with the Bing search, with that search for Bing integration. So if you don't have that on, you will probably not see a lot of these things here. But super important, here is the place where you can actually set up all those extra things. So you can set up those bookmarks, those Q&As, those location and the floor plans. So floor plans, you need some AutoCAD drawings for that. It's pretty difficult to set up. Verticals, you can add those here as well. So this is actually where you build all that configuration in the search admin part. So next to that, you've got your classic SharePoint usage reports. So you will find these in the SharePoint admin center, and you can actually find, okay, what are people looking for? What are my top queries every day? What are abandoned queries? So people are starting to search for something, but they're not following up, or they're not clicking on anything. So they kind of say, it's probably not there. I'm not going to find it. I'm just going to leave it for now. So these are things that you definitely need to monitor. So these are Excel files, CSV files that you get for 30 days. So I think it's very important to every month to pull these off, store these somewhere, and then you can actually build some really impressive reports around that for when you need these. So definitely talk with the business around things that you can find here, because these are super insightful.
Yeah, that's where Power BI comes into it, of course. You can just pile all of these presentations, cut and paste them into one, run your reports, find out what your stats are, and you're moving. We recorded episode 46 of the podcast yesterday, and one of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about was return of investment on adoption. And it's exactly the same here. These search results are telling you how successful your search strategy is.
Mhm.
And if your business is saying, hey, this is what I need, can you do this? And they're working with you about apps they need, about plans, about the kind of search results that they need, then you can prove, you can deliver, you can identify, hey, look, we're now starting to improve the search results in this space, in this area, and you can confirm that, you know, what you're being asked to deliver value on, you are being delivered value on.
Sure.
And you can also then justify all of the time and effort being spent into search as part of your operational run.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of data here.
Maybe one more example from one of my customers. So they were complaining that search was not really working. So we dove into those top queries, and we saw that the first result had around 6,000. Well, it was searched 6,000 times. The second one was searched 200 times. So the first one was really all the way up there, super important. Everyone was looking for it, and what they were actually looking for was the link to the timesheet application. So what we then did was just put that link for the timesheet application on the homepage of the intranet, and suddenly we saw a big drop of those search queries for that application. So we were actually helping people finding things like that application, and that is where the power of these reports come from.
It also identifies why it's so important to do business to IT. And the business is delivering a clear message there. All right, I'm trying to find something and I can't find it.
Exactly, yeah.
Search for it.
Yeah.
And
because we from IT, we say, well, it's super clear where that is. It's under this level, that level, that level, and there you can find all the applications, and then you have to click this one open, and you find HR application, click this one open. Timesheets, super easy to find.
What are you struggling with? It's
exactly.
easy.
So, and that was the response from the business. We're all searching for it because we can't find it. So we catch that there, and we change the link, the location of the link, and now everyone is super happy.
So here's a question for everybody. So you got the chat here. So why don't you just drop into the chat and tell us, give us a yes or no. In the last 30 days, has any of you ever been to have a look at these search results? We'll come back and just have a look at that in a minute. But
yeah,
they're telling you everything you need to know about searching in your environment. Let's just see whether, just give us a no or a yes, and let's just see how many people. We promise you we won't start emailing you with, oh, you don't look at the search results. We've got some really good consultancy services on this. We won't do that. We've also read the
yeah.
But it would be good. Is there 40% of you looking at them, or none of you? Because my guess is there might be one of us here or that actually regularly look at these search results.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what have we talked about so far? Just checking the time. Yeah, we're on time. Good. So we are looking at working with the business to identify the kinds of things they need to see in search, the kinds of information that are important, etc., and etc. So what kind of stuff will we need to manage, and what kinds of information will we get from those search definition experts? So we can create answers to business questions. So we talked about frequently asked questions. So how do I find my expense reports? How do I report a problem? How do I raise a purchase order? How do I recruit staff from home, whether there's a policy associated with it, etc., etc. Then we can obviously do those kinds of questions and ask and answer those questions. We can focus on types of information here. So which keywords will give what kind of results? And all of these are available in the admin. What bookmarks do I need to put into place so that that information is easily available, like the link to the timesheet? The locations of the organization, where is it that we work? Where do people sit? The floor plans, the idea that, you know, now I can have a map of my house, or I tried this joke yesterday. It didn't quite work, did it? But, you know, if I do a floor plan now, then you need to have my office. I have my fish tank behind me that's, you know, yeah, okay. Maybe not the floor plans is so important nowadays, but there you go. But those questions and those acronyms in the organization, they're also so key.
Yes, and just to interrupt you very rudely here, acronyms
never bothered you before.
No, exactly. But acronyms is the perfect example of talking with the business. I mean, as IT, you can never know all the acronyms that have been used on the shop floor, in marketing, in R&D, all these things that they're doing. You have no idea what they're searching, what they're using.
We've got a slide on this later, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well.
Sorry.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
No, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I would just have a quick count of the yeses and nos while I just finish these last two items.
Well, everybody just says no, but some of the people are going to look at it for Monday. So
because now you know. So there you go. The takeaway value from the SharePoint Saturday is I'll take a quick look at those stats.
Yes.
But anyway, in terms of setting decisions, so there's some things you need to decide around your governance. We talked about those Bing results. You need to decide whether or not you are going to put Bing in. One of the big musts here is before you go and check the box that says put search on Bing, just let your security team know that you're going to do it and let them ask their questions, because on Monday morning, they will come and jump on your desk when they suddenly get Bing popping up with a combination of your data and internet data and all that.
There will be questions.
There will be questions.
Yeah.
So integrating that Bing search, we've got the new tab in Edge now, which gives you a lot more information and gives you the recent and the graph stuff.
That is actually awesome stuff.
I
saw it on your PC. I didn't even know about it. Didn't even set it up. I just saw it at your thing. I was like, oh, how did he do that? That is pretty awesome.
It is pretty cool. Yeah. But trust me, when I've tried to go to the organization, explain this, okay, we need to do a few things first. So I end up with a bunch of questions I have to get right confirmations from Microsoft before security gives them. Anyway, continual improvement. How are you going to improve on a month-to-month basis? And then, of course, those questions around search and what I'm going to search for. And also, you must identify the owners of the core content. These people are going to be your partners in this episode for the next year or so, whether it's information technology, human resources director, the purchasing team. They all own data, and it will be something that you are going to present as part of your search results.
No. Oh yeah, that's mine. Yes.
We might do something here on acronyms.
Yes, exactly. AAA, adding an acronym, because AA was already taken by something else. So exactly. No, but you get all that. So you're talking to the business, you get all that feedback, you get all that information. So now you can actually do a number of things. So you can actually add those bookmarks. You can ask those frequently asked questions, add those acronyms. You can do a really quick import if you just let them fill in an Excel file or something. Just send that around, grab all that thing, just have a big import. So that is super easy. Also, something that I really like to do, and this is something that is also very much linked to the whole knowledge management within the organization, and something that they're probably not doing at the moment. So what I ask for companies is we just list all the departments that they have on the top. We list them on the left-hand side as well. And then we ask from every department, okay, what is the number one thing that the other departments need to know from you? And this actually came from one of my customers where the shipping department was actually very mad at the R&D department because the people from R&D were building or were drawing out machines that were too big to fit into a shipping container. So the people from shipping always had all these things to do. So they really said, okay, what we really want R&D to know is how big a shipping container is and how they need to redraw all these things so that they can actually fit in there. So that was their number one concern. But if you're talking about sourcing, if you're talking about HR, about IT, about whatever department, just what are the things that the other department needs to know? And also if you talk about search, or what are the things that these people will probably need to search for? What is the information, the number one information that they need to know? So these could be things that you do every month, every 3 months, maybe every year. But this is an important exercise to get that knowledge management across and to get that search results to improve as well.
So that's the push. The push says, I need them to know this. I need them to know the size of the shipping container so that they've got no excuses. But there's also the pull. Okay, I don't know what you don't know, and I don't know what you're going to need. So then I have the responsibility for making sure that when you need it, you can find it, so that you can pull that information where accordingly, which basically means that, you know, marketing needs to be able to have their latest and greatest sales brochures and the plans and their roadmap for that product information, so that anytime anybody needs it, it's available there to be pulled from me. And when they pull it, it's always going to be the latest and greatest content.
And this is also a super cool example of things that you can, for example, set up. And this is an example, I think, from Ignite last year, where they actually build a Power App as a search result. So what you could do, for example, is if you're looking for, okay, how many vacation days do I have left? Instead of giving you a link to your HR system where you also need to log in, you've got that all different look and feel, all that different navigation. So you need to find all between all these numbers what you can do. Well, in this case, they actually made a little Power App. So if I'm looking for, okay, how many vacation days do I've got left, or time away, or whatever that you want to search for, this actually gives you a really easy Power App to just say, okay, these are the amount of vacation days that you've got left. You could do that with a bunch of HR things. You can, like, for example, you can show things that people can easily fill in instead of linking to whatever. And this just makes the life of your end users so much easier.
Yeah, it gives them one place to find all their content, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Through your search results.
Yes.
This example, I happen to know from Microsoft, they have a very old system for tracking annual leave and number of days and left. So, and again, this is not a Power Apps session, of course, but they put a connector into their old system, created the Power Apps form, and then included that in the search. And then they removed the old system from their search results. So now everybody just goes through to here, and they get it in a nice, easy way. And of course, all the advantages that Power Apps has with it.
Exactly.
Oh, we could add an acronym.
Yes. So this is, for example, how that would work if you would want to add these acronyms and these Q&As and whatever. So I really encourage you, definitely for the acronyms, is send out an email to all the managers in all departments. This is low-hanging fruit. This is
absolutely
like it's almost rotting on the ground. That's how low kind of fruit this is. So write an email to every manager in the department. Say, okay, here's an Excel file. Just fill it in with what are the acronyms that you're using in your department. What is the short explanation and what is the long explanation? Just send that out. Say, okay, just send that back to me in a week or in 2 weeks. And all these results that you get, just import them in this one, and then next time somebody looks for this specific acronym, they will actually find these results.
Now, if you haven't fallen asleep yet, if you look closely at the slide, you'll notice that not everything is an acronym. Okay, so it's also those key terms within the business that people need to understand about. It's not just a, you know, a 3-letter acronym or a 4-letter acronym. So, you know, there's a definition in this particular example of contract and compulsory damages. So people are able to go and look at those. It's not just acronyms. So it's really about being able to put those kinds of pieces and information in place.
Exactly.
But of course, IT doesn't want to be at the center of all of this. Okay, we don't want to have to say, hey, if you've got an acronym, from now onwards, now we've got it set up, I want you to raise a ServiceNow ticket, and we'll get the ServiceNow ticket and we'll update it. As you start to build that partnership with the business, within the business and IT, then you can start to give them the ability to do some of these things themselves as you start to trust them, as they start to understand that kind of responsibility. And of course, there's more and more specific roles and admin roles being added into the tenant so that you can do it in a safe way. But this is something that needs to be done as a group, as a board. So moving forward, I've got a couple of suggestions here on how B2IT can be enhanced and brought together and formed within your organization. And it works on the basis that search results are always enterprise-wide. You don't know what you don't know. Consequently, the enterprise could have 10,000 items and I only need to see 2,000. But that comes from the idea that the business and IT are working together. So put together a search design board. It could be an offshoot to your managed metadata board. If you have a board that's managing your search, your knowledge items, your knowledge terms, if you're going to go down the Cortex route, of course, with your what's the term?
Subject matter experts.
Subject matter experts. It could be part of that, depending on how big it gets. But it basically means that those enterprise type things are kind of defined by management. Instead of it being one person, because I'm the guy that manages search, I kind of have the responsibility for getting it right. I have the responsibility for researching it. Whereas if we can identify a group of people that will take responsibility for this, then you're actually sharing the load and you're removing the risk, and you're increasing the opportunity to get more and more information and the right information to the owners. To the people searching for the results. And you can identify the owners that you need to contact on a regular basis, decide whether they're going to join the board, and of course, finally identify the right audiences for that information. And it's only when you kind of get this relationship with the business that those statistics and search results that we were showing you earlier start to add value. The reason that we've got so many no's, nobody's looked at those search results, because nobody cares about them. And even on Monday, God bless every one of you, on Monday you go and look at those search results. If you have nobody to discuss them with or nobody to share them with, then, hey, there's a word for this, but we've signed so I'm not really allowed to. But you can go and play with your own data, but it is really better if you can share it with other people.
No, absolutely, because people might be looking at let's take a typical marketing example, the Mark V blueprint. Yeah, but you're working in IT. You don't have an idea what that Mark V thing is. So you need to talk to production. You need to talk to R&D to find out, okay, this is the search term that people are looking for. But where do we need to link that to? What kind of result do we want to show if people are looking for this?
And we'll never know. So there's a couple of key messages that I want to. Sorry,
we'll never know.
No, we won't. IT, I meant not you and
yes,
I.
Yes, okay.
And IT,
okay.
yeah. Now we'll always know because we're consultants. It depends on who we ask.
Yes.
So understand the value of working with a business. That's the key message that I really we wanted to be able to present here. So enterprise messages defined by management, etc., and be agile. Understand what you can do quickly. We've shown you the admin. I know we've not done a deep dive into it, 45 minutes. We want to really get these messages across, but you can fail fast. Put a search term in. Nobody's using it. Wow, the stats are saying let's turn that off. Let's make just that a normal result. Learn from those. Repeat the exercise until you get it better, and allow you to be constantly improving those search results for the business. And eventually everybody will see how well that's doing. So possible next steps and approach as we move to the last few slides in our last 50 seconds. Choose your search design board members carefully. The people that understand I need to get and push my information out. Understand the value of search. So every time you have a strategy call, every time your boss starts talking about it, then make sure that search is in there and people understand that it needs to get in there. Okay. Write user stories so that you can define the value that you're delivering. Oh, you want to be able to do this? Great. Don't walk away. Sit there and say, okay, so as a user, I would like to be able to use this search term and get these results. And then you've got a precise item to define and a precise amount of value that you can deliver, and prioritize them, and use that design board to prioritize the work you do within search. That's so important. You're just going to check the questions and make sure there's nothing, because I think we're now on the last slide. So
yes. So we've got a question from Frederick saying, starting with a client where people are complaining they can't find anything. So we should set this up with them to keep an eye on those reports, for example, and have a board to do something about it. Yes, exactly. So that is definitely the first thing that you need to do. But also super important, announce this to the end users. Say, look, we know you can't find anything, but we're working on it. Because if people... If I'm trying something, I'll try it, and next week I'll try it again, and then the week after that I'll try it again. But if I'm failing, I'm just not going to use it anymore. So search doesn't work. So I'm not going to search for it anymore. I'll just save a copy on my own desktop. I don't care anymore. No, let people know, look, we're working on the search. So we've got a few people working together. So tell us what you're searching for. Tell us what you can't find. Maybe one of the things that you could do, for example, is create a little form in forms saying, look, this is what I was searching for. This is what I was expecting, but this is what I got, or this is not what I got. Something like that.
It's definitely true to be able to have kind of a search response in your service now. The other thing that you always need to remember in Office 365, and it's a completely different kind of presentation here, is how your retention and how your record management is affecting your search results. Because it could well be that you have a blanket retention of a number of years, and unless those things are not actually been taken out of the search index, they're going to keep coming back as results. So that's part of the refinement.
Yes. One of the things that I've got with a customer of mine is that I know.
Seconds.
Yeah. So we're the last thing. So what I've got with a customer, really big organization, and the communications department is putting out lots of news with documents and pictures and stuff like that. But all those things sitting in the documents library of the intranet, it's also being captured by the search. So when I search for something, these are things that are coming up way up high. So that's probably not what you want. So also define these are the libraries that don't need to be picked up by search anymore. So that's all that we wanted to say. That's us. So please feel free.
That we haven't answered?
No, we need to wrap up. I will be on the Discord, so if you got any questions, leave them there. If you got any questions later on, talk to us on Twitter or somewhere else at SciSteve. That's this guy at Marin Somers. That's me. Listen to our podcast, and that's it.
That's true. Good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us. It was awesome. I'm gonna mute you guys. Put in
finally, that's the best thing you've done all day. Yes.
Yeah, you sure? I'm going to start with commercials, and then we're going to be back in 50 minutes with Carmen, who's going to talk about boosting your adoption in Microsoft 365. So that sounds interesting as well.
The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website.
Oh, oh.
The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website. The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR, to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome, Carmen.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Good afternoon. Great to have you here today and for your session. That's going
Great
to
to be here.
definitely interesting because you're going to talk about something which has become way more interesting lately, of course, which is about governance and the new kid in town, I guess, with regards to the virtual agents.
Yep, indeed.
Nice. So I'll let the floor up to you. Enjoy the upcoming 45 minutes and you're ready to go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me today on the last session before the closing, of course. And I'll be talking about how you can use Power Virtual Agent to boost your Microsoft Teams adoption. You can find me on Twitter with my handle, which is just my name, Carmen IJswem. Of course, I would also like to thank the sponsors without whom this event would not be possible today. So thanks very much. And then, of course, I would also like to remind you of the code of conduct, which is essentially be nice, be respectful, and be inclusive to anyone who is attending or who is presenting today. And then let's get started. So why is this session important? Why am I talking about this topic? It's firstly because adoption is essential, yet in most cases it's very difficult. It's essential for the success of any new technology. If the people in our organization don't use the technology that we offer, the project really hasn't succeeded. Adoption is, of course, also change, because people need to change the way that they work. They need to change their behavior. They need to change, or they need to move away from their normal flow of doing things or their traditional flow of doing things. And that might be a big change or a small change. But any time that change is involved, it's difficult, because as humans, we like routine, we like doing the same things over and over, and we traditionally don't like change. So it's difficult to get people to change, of course, and therefore adoption is hard. And it's hard both from the perspective of the people that have to go through the adoption, that have to do the changes, and as well as from the perspective of the people that, usually consultants or IT, who is driving the change, who is wanting the organization to adopt a new technology or a new application. And especially with Microsoft Teams, it's an amazing application, but there is so much involved. There are so many different options, so many different functionalities that it provides. And still, it's not that when you can just release it into the organization and they will use it. You need to think about it, how you want to use it in the right way, how you want the organization to use it. And Power Virtual Agents or a chatbot, an intelligent virtual agent, can make that easier by bringing the right information to the right person at the right time. So by bringing a Power Virtual Agent into the Teams application, people can ask their questions inside the application to the chatbot, who will provide them with an answer. So that is bringing it at the right time, at the right place, and to the right person. Really tailoring that response, or when you bring information to your users. Now, what should a Teams adoption bot do? Because that's what I'm going to build after giving this small introduction. It should, or in my opinion, it should do three things. First of all, helping users in solving common questions and problems. So a lot of questions that we see often from people when they start using Teams is, how do I create a new team? What are the different types of channels? What are private channels? What should we use them for? How can I organize a meeting? And how can I share content in the meeting? A lot of questions come our way when people start using Teams. And there are many ways to do things. You can just create teams using the out-of-the-box functionality that Microsoft provides, or you can build a provisioning robot or provisioning engine, which then, of course, your users need to use in order to build their teams, and they need to know about the provisioning process. And that is where a bot can also be helpful in sharing the right way to do things. So when people ask, of course, they are not going to ask, is there a provisioning process in place? But when they ask, how can I create a new team? Your bot could point them in the right direction, and not just giving a link to the provisioning engine, but giving some explanation why that provisioning process is in place, what is expected, how long it can be expected to take, etc. And you can do that with different types of questions. Instead of just answering their questions just as it is, they can provide a bit of context. And that is really how they can start sharing the right way to do things. And then, of course, when the bot cannot answer the question because that specific question was not taken into account when designing it, it should refer to support, and it should make it easy for the user to get referred to support. And then I'm going to build, or I'm going to enhance a bot that I've started building already with three simple scenarios. And the first one is how to answer users' questions. So I have on my screen here already a bot that I've created. It's already shared with the team, or it's already published to the Teams channel, and I'm going to edit it in the online editor of Power Virtual Agents. So in the topics, I have already created 2 topics. It is, which is how to add a member to a team, how to create a Teams meeting. And these are created very simply, very basically, with, of course, some trigger phrases, how to organize a meeting, different questions, different ways that people can ask that question. And then what I do when people ask a question is I rephrase the question that the bot has understood, so that the people or the users that ask the question also know which question I'm answering at this point. And then I've included a link to a SharePoint page where that is explained. So I've created a SharePoint site. This is a demo environment, of course, where I have created a SharePoint page with an explanation how to schedule a Teams meeting with some screenshots. Now, I have opted to link to a page on SharePoint and not giving the entire explanation in the chatbot for 2 reasons. First of all, if you want to include the screenshots, there's not a straightforward way to add images into Power Virtual Agents. You can't just upload them or paste them like you can in SharePoint. Therefore, that's the first reason why I've chosen to do it in SharePoint. And then the other thing is that if you have to give these 3 messages with screenshots into the Power Virtual Agent, that can become a very long conversation where users would have to scroll back up, etc. Not the best user experience. With this page, they start at the top of the explanation, and then they can scroll down, and they have the message next to the text. So that is my preferred way of giving that explanation versus just adding it all into the topic. And I have a second one that's the same for adding a member. So it's also rephrasing the question, giving a link. And then what I always do is I end the conversation with a survey. So just to check whether I gave the right answer and whether the answer was sufficient. So not just answering the right question, but also whether the answer is clear for the user and whether they actually are helped by that. And I'm going to create a third topic just like that to start, which is a simple one, how to create a team. Now, in my case, I don't have a provisioning engine on this environment, but of course, if you have a provisioning engine, this is a great way to or a great topic to include also explanation about that provisioning engine. So I'm adding some trigger phrases: create a team, new team, collaborate with colleagues. You can, of course, type more. I'm going to start with 3, and then I'm going to go to the authoring canvas. Now it's saving my topic for the first time. And then once the topic is saved, the authoring canvas opens, and it immediately gives me the option to insert my first message. So I'm going to take the same approach, rephrasing the question. Sounds like you want to create a new team. You can find the explanation for that here. And then I'm going to insert a link, going to my training site, a page for creating a new team, and then copying and pasting the link. And just like before, I'm going to end the conversation with a survey so that I can later on in the analytics check whether this was a sufficient answer for the users. And then if I save that topic, I can immediately check it here in the test bot. So I want to create a team. And as expected, the chatbot gives me the answer. If I click on the link, my page will open in a new tab, and I can just see the explanation that I have here. And then, of course, the survey is added at the end. Did it answer my question? Yes. And then I can say that it was a great answer. And for the moment, you can't help me with anything else. So a basic topic, very simple to get started. You can get this up and running. You see, when you have your topics and you have your training pages, of course, then you can build a topic in a matter of minutes and getting started very quickly. Now I'm going to actually build further onto that topic. So I shouldn't have closed the authoring canvas. Instead of just giving the user that asks the question the explanation, I'm going to ask whether they want me to help them in creating their new team. Because that is where Power Virtual Agents is really powerful. It can take action on behalf of the user. So building onto this topic, right after I ask or I send my first message, I'm going to add actually a question. So I'm going to say, would you like my help with this, or just give you the explanation? Multiple choice options, help me, or just give me the explanation. And then I'm going to rename my variable help or explanation. And then depending on the answer that I get, I'm going to take a different action. So here, of course, I don't need to give the explanation immediately. I'm going to remove this here and then add it in the just give me the explanation branch. So I'm going to add a new message. I'm going to paste in the explanation link that I had before. And then I'm going to send them straight to the end of the survey or the end of a conversation with the survey. And then when the user says that they want help, I'm going to ask 2 additional questions. The first one being, what should be the name of the team? The team, where I'm going to extract the user's entire response as the result. And again, I'm going to rename my variable just so that it's easy for me to find the right one later on. And then asking a second question. How can this team be described? There we go. And again, extracting the user's entire response, renaming the variable to team description. And this is where the Power Platform in its entirety comes in, because now we can actually call an action where we're going to call a Power Automate flow to create the team. I already have one ready, but I'm going to create a new one just to show you that's also very easy just to do right from the Power Virtual Agent. I'm going to accept. So we see that we have a template already filled. There we go. With the Power Virtual Agent's input that we want to get, and then the value that we're going to return to our agent when we have completed the flow. I'm going to rename my flow to create a new team. And I'm going to add two text inputs. First one being the team name, and the second one being the team description. Team description. There we go. And now it's simply a matter of adding the team's action, create a team, and entering the team name and the team description into the parameters. And this could be your flow. Now, of course, you want to make sure that your flow is successful, that nothing went wrong, and therefore I'm going to build in a check to make sure that, of course, my team has been successfully created. So I'm going to initialize a variable which is going to be my output. I'm going to drag it above the action, and the value will be success. And then here I'm going to return my output variable output. And I'm going to add a parallel branch, which is going to be a set variable action, which is only going to run if my create a team action has failed. So something went wrong. And then I'm going to set my output variable to failed. And here I'm going to return value to Power Virtual Agents, add an output text, output, of course, and enter a value to respond the output variable. And then I'm going to add in a terminate action with success as the status so that my flow run doesn't show as failed. If I save this, and I close it, and I'm going back to my Power Virtual Agent. If I'm now choosing call an action, my new flow should be added to the list here. Create a new team. If I choose this, then I need to give my input variables, team name and team description, and I can see that I will get one output value. Now I know that if my team was successful, I will get success as a return value, as an output, and if it wasn't, I will get failed. So I'm going to add another condition, and I'm going to use my output as the condition input, and if it is equal to success, then I'm going to show a message, your team has been created. You will see it in the teams list, and ending the conversation with a survey. If my output is not equal to success, I'm going to show a message, or actually ask a question. Seems like something went wrong. Always what a user wants to see. Do you want me to try again, or refer you to the explanation instead? Refer you to the explanation instead. Making it really easy for our users to decide whether they want to try again, or they will just go to the explanation and try it themselves. So try again, please, are my options, or refer me to the explanation. And then renaming my variable, explain. And then depending on whatever the user chooses, I'm going to either loop back to right before I create the team, because my input variables are still available in my topic, or when they say that they want to be referred to the explanation, I'm going to loop back to, if it wants to go up, there we go, to the explanation. And now our flow is completed. So if I save it, and the testbot chat refreshes, I can start by asking my question again, create a team, and then I want the chatbot to help me. The name of the team should be CollabDays team, and the description should be I'm having fun. And then in the background, the flow will run to create the team, and we'll soon find out whether that flow has been successful or not. Normally, when it takes this long, this is not a good sign. Apparently, it was a good sign. I'm just not patient enough. So my team has been created. If I then go to Teams, I open my Teams section, then I will see that the CollabDays team has indeed been created. And of course, I'm added as the owner since the flow is executed in my name. So that was also quite an easy way to, and quickly, the bot was created completely, including the creation of a team. Now, of course, if you have a provisioning engine, you would give some more explanation here about why there is no, or it's not according to the Microsoft out-of-the-box functionality, what you can expect from that provisioning engine, what is the expected output time. And you can even go as far as to, instead of referring them to whatever app or form you have for starting that provisioning process, you could ask the questions that you need as input in the bot and have the bot start that process as well. So you can take it really, really far, of course. Now, I want to create another topic because apart from creating a team or from giving information to the user or taking action on behalf of the user, you can also, if you have information available in a list, in a Microsoft list or a SharePoint list, you can get that information for the user quickly. Now, in a lot of adoption tracks or adoption projects, we work with an ambassador program or a champion program, and we have a list of those champions somewhere within our tenant, within our Office 365 environment. And users need to know who they can turn to for support, who can help them, who is their champion, basically. And we want to give them an easy way to find their champion when they are looking for it. So I'm going to create a new topic, find champion. If you have, find, not fin. If you have, and if you call it ambassadors or salespeople, I don't know what you could call it. Champions and ambassadors are, of course, most often used. It would be find ambassador, the topic. And then the trigger phrases can be, who is my champion? I want to find my champion, and you can have a lot of other trigger questions, of course, as well. And then if I'm going to the authoring canvas, it will save my topic for the first time, and then start again with that same template of the trigger phrase and then the first message. Here, I'm going to do the same. Sounds like you are looking for a champion to support you. And I'm going to do the same as I did with the create a team question. I'm going to ask the user whether they want my or the bot's help to find it, or whether they want to be referred to the full list. Would you like me to help you find them, or give you a link to the full list? Multiple choice options again. Find them for me. New option. Give me the link. And then what you can also do is to make sure at this point in the question already, is to give them the option to say, that's not what I'm looking for. So that way you can very easily in the topic find out that it's actually not what the user is looking for. And I'm going to save my or rename my variable to find or link. And then I have my 3 branches again. If it's not what the user is looking for, I am going to show a message. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. And I'm going to end the conversation with a survey. You could also go back, of course, to the greeting topic where the Power Virtual Agent is explaining or is giving some introduction into what their purpose is. If they ask for the link, I'm going to show a message. Here is the champions list. And then I'm going to go back to my team training site where I have a champions list prepared already, of course. I have a couple of champions, most in Belgium, some in the Netherlands, and I'm going to copy that link and add it here in the bot. And then, of course, I'm also going to end the conversation with a survey. So I'm looping, or I'm going to that same action. If the user is asking to find the champion for them, I'm going to ask 2 more questions, because as you can see in my training list, I have 2 specifiers, or 2 properties of each champion. The first one being the country and the second one being the department. So I'm going to filter the list for the user based on those 2 properties. That means I'm starting by asking, what department do you work for? Multiple choice options. I have 6 departments: finance, marketing, sales, engineering, production, and R&D. And since I'm going to use this as a parameter for my flow, I actually don't need all of these conditions or all of these branches. So that's the wrong one that I'm going. I'm going to delete all of these conditions, all of these branches. Delete, and then it's always rearranging the screen. Delete, 2 more, oh no, 1 more. Delete, and I'm going to ask my second question. What country do you work in? And instead of letting the user choose their country, I'm going to make sure that I'm prepared if I expand my ambassador or my champion program to other countries. And I'm going to use the country entity that is built into Power Virtual Agents, also to make sure that I'm always getting the same country. So I know which countries this will give back. If I type in the Netherlands or NL, this entity will always resolve that to the same value that I can then use as input for my flow. And then the next step is to call an action again. I'm going to create a new flow. And then I'm going to rename this as well. Find my champion. Just going to add CD at the end, so I make sure that I choose the right one in the next step. And I'm going to have 2 input variables again, the department and the country, of course. And then I am adding my action, which is going to be a get items action from SharePoint, because here I can add a filter query to filter the list based on my 2 properties that I have here. So the site address is Teams Training. The list name is going to be the champions list. I only want to get back the first one because I know that I have only 1 champion for each country department combination. And then I'm going to input my filter query. I've renamed my title country my title column to country, so my title is actually containing my country. And I'm going to say that the title should equal the country that I get as input, and my department should equal my department as input. And then here I'm going to make sure that that's the entire, yes, because Power Virtual Agent, when you add text after a dynamic content, or Power Automate actually, it sometimes removes that last quote. So I just wanted to make sure that it stays there now. So with this query, I am getting back my champion for that country and that department. And then I want to check that there actually is a champion for that country. And to do that, I need to add my country into a variable. If I initialize a variable, it's going to be my champion, of course. Champion string. And then after, even though I have specified that I only want to get one item back, the result of this action is going to be an array of items. So I need to make sure that I extract my value from that array. And for that, I'm going to use an append to string variable, where I'm going to append the champion, that's the name, into that string, and then automatically, because it's an array, this is going to be added into an apply to each, but I know I'm only getting one back, so this will be executed only one time, and now my champion variable contains my champion name. And to make sure that I have a value in there, I'm going to add a condition. So a condition, which is going to be an expression. There we go. Length of my variable champion. Yes. There we go. So I'm calculating the length of my variable champion is equal to 0. If this is the case, I know that actually no champion was found. So I got back an empty array because no champion was found. And in that case, I am going to set my champion variable to not found, so that I can use that as output for the flow again. And I can make sure that my Power Virtual agent doesn't just give back an empty response saying this is your champion and then nothing. I'm actually going to say that no champion was found. And then for the output, this is champion, going to return one output value. If I save this flow, text is required. So where did I forgot to? Oh yeah, of course, enter a value to respond. My champion variable, save. When my flow is saved, I am closing my my tab, and then I'm adding that action into my Power Virtual Agent conversation. Find my champion for CollabDays. I'm going to input my department and my country, and I'm getting my champion back. Similarly to what we did before, I am going to add a condition here based on my champion output variable. When it is equal to not found, I'm going to show a message. Sorry, I couldn't find a champion for department in country. Here you can find the full list. And then on the here, I'm going to provide a link to my full list anyway, just so that the user still gets an answer. And I'm going to end my conversation with a survey. Going back to the top. There we go, end of conversation. In any other case, so when my champion is not equal to not found, that means that I got a name back. I'm going to show a message. I found your champion. And then I am adding the name. And also here, I'm going to go to end the conversation with a survey. And that's this topic completed. So in any case, any result that we get from the user or from the flow, we will have a fitting answer for the user. If I then save the conversation and the test bot refreshes, I can test this topic as well. So find my champion. And then I get the options that I specified, of course. Find them for me. I work in marketing and I work in Belgium. Now again, in the background, the flow is that's not what I needed. So in the flow, I made a mistake. I took the entire champion item as a response, not just the display name. So I'm going to change that from the Power Virtual Agent. That's why you always test your topics before you publish them, of course. If I edit the flow, it's in my apply to each, in my append to string variable. I don't have to choose, of course, the entire champion, but I need the display name. Champion display name is what I needed. If I save this and I try the, this did not answer my question. And then I want to rephrase, find my champion. Try this again, find them for me. I don't remember what I chose. Sales in Belgium. See, yes. So now we do get the display name. My champion is Adele Vance. Yes, this did answer my question. It was a 4. And I'm going to see what happens when I don't find a result. So find my champion again. Find them for me, and then I am looking for something I know will not be found is going to be engineering in the Netherlands. And he couldn't find, or the bot couldn't find a champion for engineering in the Netherlands, and therefore the bot is giving me the full link to the champions list so that I can look if there really isn't a champion. Maybe I can become a champion, or I can turn to one of the other champions in the Netherlands, or the Belgian champion for engineering. So in every case, I do get an answer to my question, trying to really answer the user's questions, of course. Now, if we publish this flow, we can also get it in Teams or use it in Teams. Now, this can take up to 15 minutes. So let's see if my new topics are available sooner. I would be surprised. Oh, there, it did find it. So also here, we will get the same result. Find them for me. I am working in production in Belgium. It's going to execute the flow and find my Belgian champion. And just to check that it's actually giving me the correct answer. So production Belgium, what is that in my list? Belgium production, it's Deborah Berger. So it's also giving me the correct results. So that's the 3 demos that I wanted to give. Now, of course, once our Power Virtual Agents are built and it's published and it's starting to be used, it's not finished. You're not just ready. You actually have to fine-tune your agent to make sure that you can add additional topics, for example, change trigger phrases or add additional trigger phrases when the way that people search for things doesn't match the trigger phrase that you have defined, or the topics that you have defined in your conversations, the conversations that you have defined, or the topics that you have defined in your bot aren't a complete match for the user's questions, then you would have to add existing topics or new topics. For example, let's say that you have a topic like I had in the bot, how to organize a Teams meeting. It might be that a user is asking, how can I join a Teams meeting, or how can I participate in a Teams meeting? If you don't have that topic, they will be sent probably to the create a Teams meeting or organize a Teams meeting topic, which is not what they're looking for. From the analytics, you can find that information. You can review individual conversations with users and fine-tune your topics, your trigger phrases, and your conversation flow based on the feedback that you get from the users, and add new topics when necessary. So that's really important, is that when you do something like this, when you build a virtual agent to get started to help your users, is that you don't just build it once, but continue to improve it, of course. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. So you can find me on Twitter. I also have a blog where I occasionally blog around topics on the Power Platform, Microsoft Teams, and sometimes I add in something personal there too. So check that out as well if you're interested. And if there are any questions, now would be the time to address them. Let me check.
Yes, Carmen.
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for a definitely demo-heavy session. And a lot of thumbs up were happening in the background in the channel. So let me quickly see, and if people have questions, of course, please do answer them. And let me see what's in the channel. Maybe you can have a similar look as well. There were a couple of notes early in the session, but I didn't point them out to you so far. But not a lot of questions, just a lot of compliments.
That's nice, of course. Is the AI smart enough to interpret the questions if they don't match exactly? I have found that with the most cases where I'm rephrasing a question a bit differently, when the keywords are in there, that it is interpreting them the right way. So usually I would say yes. So they don't have to use the exact phrasing as the trigger phrases. For example, if I were to, let me try this. I had the, which trigger phrases were, for example, in my create team, collaborate with colleagues, new team, create a team. Let's say that I combine two of them. Of course, this could go terribly wrong as well. Create a new team. It is still extracting that I want to get to that topic. So it is smart enough to interpret small changes to the exact topics that you defined, yes. And I think that was the only question.
Yeah.
So thank you for attending. Thank you for the feedback. And if there are any more questions, I will stay in the Discord a bit longer so that I can answer them as well.
And enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. And we'll be talking soon. And for everybody here, we'll be continuing in 15 minutes. And we're going to do close up for today. And we're going to do a raffle. So enjoy. Hope you're going to join us a bit later. And see you soon. Hey,
one important thing. So we are doing the closing in 15 minutes. And there are still 3 spots left for people that want to join an open discussion to close this event. So if you are interested, feel free to tag me in Discord.
Okay. Thank you, Leo.
And hello, Carmen.
See you next time.
Hi. See you next time.
The Omita framework is an enterprise-ready software platform that makes it possible to set up an easy integration between your existing back-office applications and push all the relevant information into digital workplaces. Omita has developed various kinds of solutions which can be easily deployed and linked to your back-office applications. Omita has solutions for contract management, HR to speed up onboarding and offboarding processes, sales dashboards, shop floor portals, and many more. If you want more information, visit our website.